What's going on, family? I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. I'm going to continue to examine 100 years of the greatest 150 black fighters of all times. Let's take a look at Walter Edgerton. He was known as Kentucky Rosebud. Born November 18, 1856 in Raleigh, North Carolina. He would die May 4th, 1930 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, Walter Edgerton stood 5 foot 4 inches. He weighed 115 to 128 pounds, and he was managed by Michael McCauley. Now, he fought from 1882 to 1892, 10-year stretch, and he was in the ring with fighters such as Frank Childs and Ike Wire, Johnny Banks, and Jeff Williams, Tommy Edwards and Sam Robinson, John Taylor and George Dixon, Cal McCarthy, and many, many more. You see, he was in there with the top performers of his day. George Dixon was a 2-time world champion. Cal McCarthy was a champion who lost his crown to George Dixon. Johnny Taylor was a black champion. He would hold the black title. So you see, Walter Edgerton was the goods. And he would be added to the list of names. 100 years of 150 greatest black fighters of all times. Take a look at Walter Edgerton. Useless Cannon, known as Black Fitzsimmons. Many would call him Kid Monday. He was born January 15th, 1878, in Mars, South Carolina. He stood 6 foot 1 inch and weighed 170 to 180 pounds. He was in the ring with fighters such as Bob Armstrong, Snowball, Bob Smith, battling Jack Russell, Sam Langford, and many others. He would take on Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. He was something else. He was self-managed. He came from a very poor environment. Used to hop the railroads to seek a better life. He would take on all comers. He fought in battle royales, knee-deep water with moccasins. And he's been through it all. Black Fitzsimmons, Kid Monday, be added to the list. 100 years. Greatest 150 black fighters of all times. Check out Black Fitzsimmons, Kid Monday. Frank Rouser, born in British West Indies, out of Jamaica. He was known as the Mexican Kid. 1919, he would have 20 fights. Very strong fighter was the Mexican Kid. Cecil Lewis Thompson, better known as Young Jack Thompson. He was the 3rd black welterweight champion in boxing history. Behind Dixie Kid and the Barbados Demon, Joe Walcott, Young Jack Thompson was the 3rd. And he was a phenomenal fighter. After Young Jack Thompson would be Henry Armstrong, then Sugar Ray Robinson, Then it'll be Johnny Bratton, Kid Gavilan. Oh, had some great fighters during that time. But young Jack Thompson, they call him the Frisco Flash, was born August 17th, 1904, Los Angeles, California. He died April 11th, 1946. He was just 41 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Los Angeles, California. He stood 5 foot 8 inches, weighed 135 to 151 pounds. He would have 80 wins, 49 knockouts, 31 losses, and he'd be stopped 3 times. As an amateur, as a professional, he would have 62 wins, 27 losses, 41 knockouts. And he would become the welterweight champion of the world, May 9th, 1930, in Detroit, Michigan, in 15 rounds over Chicago, Illinois. They called him Jacob Finkelstein. His name was Jackie Fields. He stood 5 foot 7.5 inches and weighed 135 pounds to 142 pounds. Now, I met Jackie Fields, and he would reside in Las Vegas, Nevada, before he moved back to Chicago, where he would pass away. Had very good conversations with Jackie Fields. Never had the pleasure of meeting young Jack Thompson. He would pass in 1946. But he was some fighter. He would exchange titles with Jackie Fields. I wanted to give all credit to young Jack Thompson, as he was the 3rd black welterweight champion in boxing history. He would be added to the list of 100 years, greatest 150 black fighters of all times. Obie Walker. His name was Bearcat. Born September 19th, 1911, in Cochran, Georgia. Died May 23rd, 1989. He was 77 years of age at the time of his death, and he would reside in Atlanta, Georgia. I had the pleasure of meeting Obie Walker. Now, you're looking at a man who stood 5 foot 8 inches as a heavyweight. Fought from 1929 to 1946, and he was in the ring with many great fighters. He had a record of 121 total bouts, 93 wins, 18 losses, 7 draws, with 63 knockouts. He would become the colored heavyweight champion. And he would be in the ring with Elmer Violent Ray 14 times. Very hard puncher, very durable, but yet light on his feet, was Obie Walker. And Obie Walker would be added to the list of names. 100 years, greatest 150 black fighters of all time. Take a look at Obie Walker. Phenomenal fighter he was. Al Gainer, phenomenal heavyweight he was. Very strong heavyweight. You got to take a look at Al Gainer. He'll be added to the list of names. 100 years. 100 greatest black fighters of all time. 150 greatest black fighters of all time. Take a look at Al Gainer. What a fighter he was. Two-fisted puncher. Was in there with the very best of his time. I want you to take a look at Georgie Pace, the black bantamweight champion. He would lose his crown to Lou Salica, the 1932 bronze medalist. Lou Salica would become a two-time bantamweight champion. He defeat Georgie Pace and then Pedro Martinez. Georgie Pace, 1940. Very strong fighter, bantamweight champion of the world. Outside of Panama Al Gans. Panama Al Brown, excuse me. He will be added to the list of names. 100 years, 150 greatest black fighters of all times. I'm Scrapbook Boxing, Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. All great fights and all great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. On behalf of Curtis Anderson and myself, continue to watch the program with 100 years, the greatest 150 black fighters of all time, right here on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series.